Entrepreneurship is hard, so let's fix that and dive into our heroes' journeys. This is Taking Flight, an entrepreneur's journey, and I'm Sarah Tourville. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of those already in flight. This show is sponsored by EO Atlanta. Hello and welcome to our listeners and our viewers for another EO Atlanta Taking Flight episode. As always, our commitment to you all is to bring you excellent and educated, knowledgeable entrepreneurs. And there is no difference to the person we have on the show today. There's a lot we are all going to learn from this individual. So I'm very excited to get this podcast going. So today's guest has 20 years of marketing, business development, and management experience. He's inspired to help marketers find agencies that are the most proficient in their respective disciplines. He has received the AMA Atlanta Jana Ferguson Mentorship Award and the AMA Atlanta Volunteer of the Year Award. In addition, he is the co-founder of ChooseATL, board member, VP of Partnerships at AMA Atlanta, founder and CEO at Setup. And I love this next part. He's responsible for introducing 3 married couples and countless business relationships. He is a connector. Joe Koufman, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here with you. By the way, not all 3 couples are still married, but I'm not a marriage counselor. So
you never claimed to be that person, did you?
Right.
There we go. But you are definitely a connector. And I know we're going to hear so much about that today. So let's jump right in. I want to hear from you, Joe. Like, what did you get right when you took your first entrepreneurial flight?
Yeah. When I first started the company in early 2014, I immediately hired a person. And some people thought that was a little crazy because, didn't you want to make sure that the business was viable and that you could grow the business before you brought on somebody else? But I knew at the very beginning that I couldn't do it myself and that I needed to have support from somebody. And so I felt confident that I could support not only my family, but also a second salary from the very beginning. So I think that was actually the right choice.
And how did that person help you in the very beginning?
Well, I'm definitely not a detail person, and I'm not as good at executing on all of those details. And I needed somebody that could actually do the work beyond the introductions and initial conversations that I was starting. So I needed that person and they needed the job, and it worked out great for both of us.
That's great. And I think that's a sign of knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses, which I hear people say that, many times that it reached them years to figure out how to do that and then to know what to hire for. But you got that right, which is excellent.
Yeah. A wise person said to me at the very beginning, Sarah, if it's something that you're good at and it makes your company money, then do it. If it's something that you're not good at or it doesn't make you money, find help. And so one other thing that I did at the very beginning was hire a bookkeeper, because I knew that I was not a CPA and I was never going to be a finance guy. And so having that bookkeeper from the very beginning was important because, I never was going to be good at that.
No, that's really, really good. I love that. Okay. So, maybe you've answered this next question already, depending on if that person is still around or was around, but who are or were your co-pilots on this journey? Was it that first person?
No, that first person only lasted a year.
Okay.
But the co-pilots, when I started the company, originally our name was Agency Sparks. We rebranded in 2019 and became Setup. But at the very beginning, I actually had some hand-blown glass paperweights made with our logo and the colors. I have one here for those of you who are actually able to see in person. For those of you listening in, you'll just have to imagine this beautiful paperweight with yellow and red in the middle of it. But I gave out almost probably 15 of those to the original Sparks that helped me start the company. And to name some of those Sparks, there was a woman named Kelly Dean that was responsible for marketing at the Cartoon Network. And she had asked me for advice on finding an agency. And then a friend and mentor and boss for 6 years at Engage, Jeff Hillemeyer, had given me support and ideas about how to start the company. And fellow EO member, Genevieve Boss, at the time, way back, was a founder of Pink Magazine, among other things.
Yes, I learned that last week about her. I did not
She
know.
was one of the people that said, why are you going to go get a job with somebody else? Start your own company.
Yeah.
And so these were all people that helped support that entrepreneurial journey and help, each one provided a little push and a little push and a little
Yeah.
push. And eventually I just jumped off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah. That's great. That's really, really good. Fantastic. Tell me, what is a challenge that you and your team have been going through recently that you've had to solve? Is there anything really specific you can talk to us about?
Yeah. Well, we actually had a pretty slow second half of 2022 and a pretty slow first quarter of 2023. So to step back a minute, our business, we're matchmakers between marketers and agencies that can support them, the brands and agencies, we bring them together. So we measure our business based on the total number of introductions that we make between a brand and a marketing agency.
Yeah.
So when I say our business was slow, there were fewer numbers of those introductions that happened at the back half of 2022 and the front half of 2023. And that is concerning because this is
Yeah.
what feeds the agencies that pay our retainer,
Yeah.
or those introductions. And so we had to get very creative with ways to find additional introductions to be able to feed and support the agencies that pay us. And so we came up with some new tools. We found some new tools and some new levers that we could pull to find new opportunities. And it's made a big impact and helped turn things around. And we've actually had one of the busiest couple of months in the entire history of the company in terms of total number of introductions. So I think it made a difference.
So can you tell us a little bit about these tools or maybe not the tools specifically, but what is it that they did that you think helped that kind of slow period? Like, was there something, some magic sauce within that you think was a big gift?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we did was we began leveraging tools like LinkedIn better to
Hmm.
outreach cold to marketers that may be interested in what we do. And we were very direct with our message to them to say, look, we can help support you by helping you fill gaps in capacity, where you don't have enough arms and legs to do the marketing activities that you need to get done, or gaps in capability. You may be good at 10 things, but there may be two or three other things where you're not so good and you might need agency support to fill those
Yeah.
gaps. And so we were very direct and reached out cold to marketers, not like the thousands of spam emails we get on LinkedIn, but ones that were very clear that, look, we're matchmakers between brands and agencies. We can help connect you with an agency that can fill a gap. We're not going to ram one agency down your throat.
Yeah.
When the client has a need, we usually introduce them to 3 or 4 different agencies so that they can choose the one with whom they have the best chemistry. But that we hadn't really leveraged LinkedIn cold outreach as a
Yeah.
tool as much. And that made a big impact. We started to
Yeah.
have some really nice conversations
Yeah.
based on that.
Now, just for our listeners' sake to understand, because I've also found LinkedIn to be a very good strategy, but is it something like a Copilot? Like, have you heard of LinkedIn Copilot, or is it actually
No, we actually used a tool called Cleverly.
okay?
And also we've used a tool called Dux Soup, DUX Soup. But Cleverly, I will describe as sort of like marketing automation for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So it allows you to create a series of messages
Mhm.
that are somewhat customized and personalized so that your outreach is not completely generic.
Yeah.
And it allows you to engage in dialogue and also even respond through their platform. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's been an interesting tool. And,
Yeah.
we use lots of tools and we use lots of tactics, but
Yeah.
that's just one that
It's
made a
just
little bit of
one.
an impact.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that, because that is
Yep.
really, yeah. There's so many tools out there. So any recommendations like that of how to kind of create more of those connections is really helpful. So,
I can share an affiliate link if the listeners want to check out Cleverly, then we can maybe add it to the show notes or something.
okay, sounds good. Or maybe when people message you at the end, when we provide your contact
Sure.
details, you could share that with them. That would be great.
Great.
So what is your favorite book right now? This is honestly, this question comes up time and time again when I meet people. They're like, oh my God, I loved getting that book reference from that person. So is there anything in specific you would like to share?
There are two, and I've bought probably more copies of these two books than anybody else outside of maybe a university that bought them all for their students or something. But one is The Challenger Sale by Adamson and Dixon.
Okay.
And it is essentially a book that teaches you how to challenge your clients with a insight that's not obvious to them, and then educate them on that insight, and then get agreement that that same challenge or issue happens within their organization, and then you present the solution. It's
Okay.
one of those books that, yes, it's kind of a sales book,
Mhm.
but we're sort of all in sales, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds
So
really
the
good.
Challenger
Yeah.
Sale is the first. The second is a little bit related. It's Influence by Cialdini, Cialdini, Cialdini. And I actually, believe it or not, this was a book that I read in college for a persuasion class. And it talks about the 7 ways that people influence other people. And it
Mhm.
gives you really tangible examples of how those different persuasion tactics or influence tactics are used. And the purpose of it is not for you to be able to manipulate those tactics for your
Right.
own gain, but to understand when you're being influenced and when you are trying to influence somebody else, what are the different ways that you can do that? And,
Okay.
you have to be ethical about it. But I just love the scientific approach of breaking down those 7 ways that people influence others.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I just was trying to Google that while you were talking. So thank you for sharing that. That is
Welcome.
wonderful. So, okay. So what excites you about your future? Like, Joe, tell me, what does your future of flight look like right now?
So I recently promoted my chief operating officer to president. She's an
Okay.
amazing human being. She spent 6 years at Coca-Cola on the client side. She spent years on the agency side running business development and marketing. And it made her nervous when I promoted her to president because she said, well, where are you going? And the reality is I told her I really wanted her to focus on making sure the trains stay on the tracks while I build new tracks.
Okay.
And so what excites me the most is that, I have a partner who can help me maintain the business and run the business while I really focus on growing the
Yes,
business to the next phase.
that is exciting. So can we know about what these new tracks might look like?
I'll tell you about one of the new tracks.
Okay.
So we've launched a set of services for clients that help them think through the ecosystem of internal marketing resources and external agency partners. So we call it marketing ecosystem consulting, but
Mhm.
we've already delivered it for a couple of clients, one Fortune 500 client and one global massive hotel chain, where we help the client think through what nirvana looks like for them. For
Okay.
every single company, that marketing ecosystem of internal resources and external partners, the perfect balance and mix is very different for every company.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult for companies to understand and know what the right mix is. And so with this service, we interview key constituents within the company as well as partners out external of the company. We paint a picture of what nirvana should look like for them and then build a bit of a roadmap to say, well, here's how you get from where you are today to get to that perfect nirvana state. And that's a service offering that we just launched. It's pretty exciting because not only does it provide a great deal of value for the client that needs that service, but often as an output of that, we identify gaps where they actually might need to come back to us and ask us for help finding agencies that can plug those gaps.
Right. Okay. So
So
that's a
that's one
service.
thing.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
service level on top of what you're currently doing, but it also can link back to it too.
right.
Yeah.
Currently, the bulk of our business is that we're paid a retainer by agencies to connect
Hmm.
with potential clients.
Hmm.
This is an example of a service that we're paid by clients to
Right.
help them figure out that perfect ecosystem. And then as a follow on, sometimes they also need us to introduce them to some of the agencies.
Yeah, I love that. So you're kind of going both ends.
Yeah. So
Sounds.
that's an exciting one. We've delivered
Yeah.
that, as I mentioned, one for a Fortune 500 company, one for a massive hotel chain.
Yeah, very, very exciting. And look at the branded mug you're using too. Sorry for people who can't see the video, but this setup new brand name is just everywhere. It's on swag, it's on something behind you.
Yeah. So yeah,
Nice.
we rebranded in 2019.
Okay.
For those of you listening who have ever dealt with trademark issues, I
Hmm.
can share some experiences there. We were known as Agency Sparks from February 2014 until August 2019. It turns out that there was a big company that had a trademark on the word Sparks with regards to marketing.
Okay.
And we had some minor skirmishes with them. And then we realized that to actually fight a major war with them was going to be very expensive and has a very low percentage chance of success.
Yeah.
And so we hired one of our agency partners to go through a rebrand. And I will say that once we went through the rebrand, we trademarked Setup as a name
Yes.
so
Yes.
that we won't have this issue again. And if
Yeah.
somebody else comes along and calls themselves Setup, that we can defend our
Yeah.
mark, our name.
Yeah. So the moral of the story there is when you've chosen the name, go ahead and brand it, trademark it as quickly as possible.
And also pick a name that you can trademark.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I mean, even the word setup is a bit generalist, but I'm assuming when you have to put it within the confines of marketing and agencies, it works.
100%. We're trademark, our trademark covers Setup with regards to matching brands and agencies together, and even
Yeah.
recruiting, I think, is included in that.
Yeah.
But we also have a tagline that we are hoping to trademark in the future, but I'll leave that out for right now because you have for you to trademark a more generic phrase. My understanding is that you have to be utilizing it in the market for 5 years and show that you
Mhm.
have. And so we're about a year away from being able
Yeah.
to hopefully trademark that as well.
That's great. That's exciting. A lot of things going on. I love that. Okay, so who are you, Joe? Talk to me like pre-flight, before 2014, when you decided to go it alone and launch this company, like what were some key pivotal milestones for you?
Yeah. Well, I have a very non-traditional path to both marketing and entrepreneurship. I was a politics and speech communications double major in college. I
Right.
proceeded to spend 4 years, 4+ years working in retail as a store manager. Ultimately, I got moved from North Carolina to New Orleans, Louisiana, to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, to Atlanta. And I also did a radio show in Jackson Hole of all New Orleans and Louisiana music on your Mountain of Music 96.9 KMTN, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And
You know that, don't you? That just came up the
I
tip of
said that
tongue.
a few times
Yeah.
when I lived out there. Then I spent 8 years at a .com, which is a long time at a .com.
Yeah.
We ultimately sold to our biggest competitor that went public in 2007. That was Tech Target was the company that went public and they bought Knowledge Storm. And
Okay.
then I joined a small digital shop that became part of Engage. I spent 6 years running business development and marketing at Engage. And we were acquired by Publicis Group, the massive holding company, in 2013. And I decided that mega holding company was not for me. And that's when I decided to start Setup. And one other pivotal moment during all of this was in 2010, the birth of my girl and boy twins, Josh and Radley. And so they are now 13 years old as of this
Yeah.
recording.
Wow, that's lovely. Yeah, I see them on some of your social media posts. They look adorable. I know you're a
Thank you.
very proud father, which is wonderful. But so it's so you've had a very an interesting career where obviously you've been in the marketing world, you've been in the agency world, you've been on the kind of the tech side of things too. It really puts you in explains why you're in the role you're in now
Mhm.
around connecting brands and agencies. So, I love the fact that it's kind of the threads have led you to this where you are right now. So, so basically, I suppose what that means, Joe, is that you are fully qualified to do what you do. It's
I
like,
am maybe uniquely qualified.
yeah,
It's funny because our model, our business model, when we explain it to people, they're often intrigued and feel that it's very different than other than anything they had heard of before. The reality is we do have lots of competitors. Some of them most of them are on one side or the other. So we have competitors that
right.
are search consultants that are paid by clients
Yeah,
thousands of dollars to help them find an agency. There are business development gurus or that help agencies do business development. Um, they all have different models and revenue models, but um, we are matchmakers connecting the two sides together, and it's fun. It's fun.
mm,
It's
yeah,
fun to talk to the client through a marketing challenge they're trying to solve and
hmm,
help them really clarify it into a really crisp brief. And
hmm,
then floating that brief to some agencies that are a good fit to revalidate that they're the right fit.
yeah,
And then connecting the two of them and watching the chemistry sometimes happen
mhm,
between one of the agencies and the client. And then they go off and do business together.
yeah,
That's fun. That's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. That is definitely. I can tell you love it, which I think is part of solving the problem, isn't it? When you love what you do, there's still truth in all of that. Like, if you don't love it, you shouldn't be doing it. If you love it, you're gonna be successful. So I can tell you love it.
I do.
So, yeah. Well, that's great. What about I mean, actually, you already mentioned I wanted to ask you a question about marketing. Obviously, you've been in marketing, you've been in agencies, you've done all sides of and I know obviously you've been trying out LinkedIn and, that type of the integration with sales, automation. Like, is there anything else you think has been really pivotal from a branding or marketing perspective that you think has really helped, set up, get to where it's at now?
Well, I'm going to give a plug to your profession, which is, public relations has been really useful for us in that we've been fortunate to gather some really great press. We put out an annual marketing relationship survey to understand that relationship and dynamic between agency and client and agency. And last year we were fortunate that they picked it up in Ad Age twice and
Oh,
then in Fast
great.
Company. Mhm.
Oh,
And
great. I didn't know that, Joe. I need to check that
oh,
out.
it's
Yeah.
been amazing. And so that's brought a lot of inbound interest in what we do from clients that said, "Oh, wow, when it lists you in the publication, it says agency matchmaker set up, this and that." Um, that has been great for search engine optimization with
Yeah, I
inbound
bet.
links from the publications. It's been
Mhm.
great for in terms of interest and traffic from the people, as well as inbound inquiries about what we do and how we do it. We're in the midst of wrapping up our fifth annual marketing relationship survey, and we do expect it'll get picked up by some of those similar publications again.
Yeah.
And also, when we made the announcement that we promoted Amanda from COO to president, it got featured in Ad Age and Ad Week and Campaign.us and Atlanta Business Chronicle and others. And so
Mhm.
again, we found that some of that, you know, interest,
Yeah,
that press pickup has driven some inbound interest.
yeah. No, I mean, thank you. There is a lot of value in public relations for sure. Definitely one, obviously, like you say, it kind of from a SEO perspective is extremely valuable, especially from like an ad age where the publication power for that publication is huge. It's kind of even what the number is. So you're going to get so much credibility, obviously, being associated to that. So yeah, rah rah, everybody, if you need PR.
We also got picked up in randomly in Marketing Brew. They send out a newsletter to thousands and thousands of people, and we've written a blog post a week for the last 9.5 years, almost 10 years. So the 10th anniversary for Setup will be February 2024.
Right.
And Marketing Brew decided to pick up one of those blog posts that we'd written. And again, thousands of inbound inquiries from, we watched the traffic spike to that blog post. And then we also, we threw up not a landing page, but an interstitial that said, "Hey, did you come here from Marketing Brew? Give us your email if you want us to talk to you." And lo and behold, we got lots of emails from folks that were interested in talking.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good for our listeners and viewers to hear. So fabulous. Okay. Thank you. That's great. I'm glad I asked that marketing question. So bonus round. I know you got something to share with us today. So, but like, what do you do outside of work? And that's your plug, Joe, to share with us what you're working on right now.
Well, there's work and there's outside of work.
Yeah.
I'll say my passion is music. I've always been very passionate about music. As I mentioned, I did a radio show when I lived out in Wyoming. I did internet radio for many, many years. You can go to gumboshow.com and see my radio show, internet radio show. But also I inherited my grandmother's 100-year-old trumpet during the midst of COVID. My uncle sent it to me and shipped it to me. And I started taking lessons via Zoom with a great trumpet player and trumpet teacher. And then once we were all vaccinated, we began doing lessons in person. I never have illusions that I'll be a professional trumpet player, but it gives me great joy. I just love learning and practicing. And I'd like to perform out in public once or twice just to check that off of my list, and then I'll be done.
Yeah, but you're enjoying it, like you say, and that's great to learn something new like that.
Yep. And another thing is with twin 13-year-olds, girl boy twins. I'm obviously very immersed in a lot of their activities. They're all involved in sports and friends and all of that, and that's been a great joy too.
Yeah. So what about that book?
Yes, that's the other thing. I am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I just signed an agreement last week to write a book. And originally the title was going to be Unlocking Human Connections, a Business Matchmaker's Guide. But I had a friend suggest to me that I name the book Setup, which is the company name, and then make that maybe the subtitle, something like that. But the idea of the book will be, how can we as become better networkers, network with each other better by becoming better matchmakers. And I've found that not only has it given me a great deal of personal joy to be able to connect people together, but it's also benefited me personally by connecting two people that are unrelated to each other or me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Okay. So when can we expect that book to go live?
2024. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it's coming down the road.
Okay. That's really, please do let me know when that goes live, because I want to give it a plug on this show for sure. So we need to keep a lookout for that. So where can people connect with you, Joe? What's the best way?
Well, certainly our website, setup.us, and there's a contact form there. So not setup.com, that would have been millions of dollars, but setup.us. But also they can email me directly as joe@setup.us.
That's Joe with an E. Joe with
JOE at setup.us.
Yes. Got to get that bit right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your sharing what you're working on and some things you got right. And I love that for you and all the exciting things which you're making happen right now. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. You're making it happen. And you're definitely doing it.
I appreciate the opportunity, Sarah. And I think we all can find something that gives us a huge amount of joy, but also fulfills us and pays the bills.
Yeah.
I found that for me. I hope you find it for you if you haven't
Yes.
already.
Yes. Thank you. I definitely feel that way for sure. And I hope our listeners, and even if it's not paying the bills yet, I promise you, if you believe in what you do and it makes you happy, it will accomplish all those things you want it to do. So just stay focused and stay listening, stay watching the EO Atlanta podcast, Taking Flight, because we will be here again very soon. So thank you, Joe, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been such a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you to our audience. If you learned something today, maybe you laughed, please tell someone about this podcast. We appreciate you all listening and look forward to speaking to you all next time. Thank you. And so that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at takingflight.live. For more information about EO Atlanta, visit eoatlanta.org. Special thanks to the following sponsors: